What is up, YouTube? Today we are back with a very special video to cover the FRIEREN collaboration that we have. Huge. Absolutely massive. If you haven't watched the anime, I highly suggest you binge it because I'm working on finishing it myself. But without further ado, I do want to quickly get into my thoughts about FRIEREN and Fern and Stark as we have watched them on stream. Now, as you can see here, FRIEREN's base speed is 112. Her self-imprint is going to be critical hit chance, and that's going to be very important to point out because that means she is going to need to have a lot of imprints with slates potentially or duplicates. And because she is limited, that means we're gonna have to pull multiple copies of her. And if you don't have a lot of slates, it might be kind of hard to build her in that sense. Now, if you are thinking about looking for a character that can match her stats, Giselle from the Espa collaboration has the same stats as her. So if you want to see what kind of build that you can use in Fribbles, go run with that. Okay. Now, that's one thing I want to highlight about her self-imprint. Now, moving over into her skill abilities, her S2 is going to grant 40% resource increase to all allies. And I think this is very interesting because there's a lot of strong units right now that have a focus kit, right? There is Flan, there is Urban Shadow Shoe, right? Urban Shadow Shoe particularly because you can apply a lot of injury into this meta where it's predominantly run with like Genesis Raz, a lot of tanky units and stuff like that. But it's going to be very interesting to see like how people can cook with the 40% resource increase. There's also other units that may benefit from it. All right, so quick little interruption. Some other units I didn't mention in this video while recording on stream is MLTU. Now, MLTU is going to be able to get 100 Fighting Spirit right away, along with FRIEREN, right? So he's going to be able to S you right away, which is pretty interesting. So you won't need to have that contingency of getting the pushback with Teiyu activating. And then another character that's really good is Fumira is about to get in the balance patch. She's going to be updated or changed, right? So she's going to have the focus ability in her passive as well. So we might see her return to play along with FRIEREN as like a unit that can utilize the focus mechanic that FRIEREN brings for the resource increase. And then Satsuko obviously is a character that we all know and hate / love. Obviously, giving her 40% more in resource, not reduction, resource gained, also will help her cycle to that 200% attack that she can get even quicker, right? So putting the game on a timer doesn't ever seem to be a bad thing, I would say. And I'm not going to be showing the Flan and Shoot because I already mentioned them, but these are three characters I want to highlight as well. And back to the video. But we will talk about Fern once we get there because she does have some resource in her skills. Now, when she gets attacked, when Force Soul is higher, it grants defensive magic, which is nullifying damage from skills. So she has skill damage, like skill effect nullifier, skill nullifier, basically, which is kind of insane because you can bring like a book on her and bring souls in, and then you just have like built-in skill null. You have survivability. That arguably is better than straight up, damage limiter or something like that, right? And obviously, after being attacked, she is able to get a increase of combat readiness of up to 10%, which is pretty impactful because right now it's in such a high tempo meta. When you have a unit that can give you utility, where it's the resource increase, where you have survivability of skill nullifier, you have 10% CR for the entire team. Think about how much utility Helion Lua when she provides 10% combat readiness to the entire team, right? Think about how much tempo that you can get in that sense as well. Is going to be very impactful in that sense, right? Now, her S3 is going to be quite interesting, I think, because it's going to you get attack buff for yourself, and you get increased combat readiness by 50%, which is very important to highlight because there is a lot of Swift Boots that are in the game right now, right? Lone Wolf Payra, Amid, right? You're able to get a lot of the the combat readiness that you need, so that will work with the Swift Boots. Additionally, penetrating the target's defense by 50%. Now, in this video, the combat demo they actually used, I'm very disappointed because they actually, oh, I don't know what's happening right now. Oh, my bad. So one thing I don't like is that the S3 in this video, you can see that it does 10k to Carmen, but she has Illinev, There's the mitigation from Carmen. There's the passive. There's Flan that has evasion, so the Aureus transfer is also less. I think it's just a terrible way of checking her damage. So I think we have to hold our judgment to see exactly how strong this S3 is going to be when the damage multipliers actually come out. But based on the combat demo, is a really, really bad showcase of her damage. So that part I don't like. I don't want to mention. Um, Now her S1 is going to be also unique because if you have souls, which you are, because she needs souls to basically have her skill nullifier, right? The Soulburn S1 is going to attack all enemies, right? Which means they can't counter, which is very good because think of units like Satsuka, right? Think about all the counter sets that we are dealing with these days. It's going to be very impactful. Now, her artifact is going to be definitely the winner of the collaboration, I would say, along with FRIEREN, because is able to grant herself 20 souls, which is like a book. So this is a limited artifact that grants souls, and it also gives you a 100% chance to grant 2 souls, which means you're coming into the match with 22 souls. If you have an opener, they press S3, you're at 25 souls, right? So you're actually able to like layer up the souls very, very quickly with the other units that you have on your team, especially in an RTA setting, right? When you pair it with, more books on your team, or you have a Frida, or you have some kind of like bird's eye view with Lady of the Scales or something, right? You're able to generate a lot of souls into the match, so Freeman's going to be able to leverage that very, very well. Now, those are my thoughts for Freeman. I think she's very strong, but we'll have to hold our judgment for now to see exactly how much damage her S3 truly does, and how impactful her passive is actually going to be in this meta where it's predominantly ran by like Amid, Conk, Speed, stuff like that, right? Moving on from Freerun, we'll be talking about Fern in just a moment here, so we'll go over there. Now, moving on to Fern, she is going to be a Mage Scorpio, and she has the same stats as Giselle. Um, her self imprint again is critical hit chance. That means imprinting her is pretty important, which I assume. Does Smilegate think we have like 50 like slates or something? I don't have 50 slates. Like, how am I gonna get critical hit chance on every damn character? Like, it's not happening, man. But nonetheless, this is gonna be very interesting because self imprint crit is gonna take a lot out of our resources, so I'm not looking forward to that. But anyways, talking about her skills now, her passive is the most unique, right? Where she actually gains 3 focus at the start of the battle, but she will come into the match with 5 focus. And when she has focus, she gets up to 75% speed at 5 focus and 100% evasion at max focus. And when she evades, it consumes 1 focus, decreasing skill cooldowns by 1 turn. So one thing I want to highlight is she basically has built in 100% evasion, more or less, right? Anywhere from like 60 to 100% evasion at all times, pretty much. Now, that means you're most likely going to want to run her on riposte set because when she evades, she gets focused back. We're going to want to make sure that she has as much survivability as possible as she has to survive with her focus in her kit. So it is interesting because some people have been saying like, oh, like is she going to be outbeating Zio or whatever, blah blah blah. The way that I interpret the speed by you're gaining 15% and 75% at max focus, I don't think you will be having like a Zio type character because on screen, as you can see, I'll pop up the Zio skill description says you actually gain that 20% at the start of the battle, right? So it doesn't actually read the same, so I would assume it's different in terms of the passive effects. But again, I will hold judgment until she actually comes out. And we're going to do some tests, obviously, on the 25th when we get her to double confirm. Now, looking at her next skill is going to be her S3. And this is going to penetrate the defense by 70%, and the damage is proportional to the caster speed, which again, it ties into her passive, where she gets 15% every single focus, right? So when we look at the ability, 70% pen is actually quite a lot, right? Freeman actually is only 50% pen on S3. 70% pen, I think, is actually quite a bit when we look at this. And you can tell it does 30k to 30k to Arunka, right? While she's defense broken and there's defense buff, right? So that's pretty decent damage. If you can one-shot her, I mean, I'm pretty overall satisfied with that. Her S1 is going to have, when it's 3 focus or higher, it decreases skill cooldowns by 1 turn. And it's going to be able to attack all enemies, which I think I said actually in the free we're not being able to counter, but that's my bad. This attack does not trigger a counter, and you can see actually how much damage it did. 8.6k to Shu, 6k to Yufine. I mean, it's not terrible. And her artifact is pretty nice because it gives her survivability, where after you attack, you get barrier to survive. So I think similarly to Frieren has like her skill nullifier tied in with her souls, and now Fern has the artifact where after attacking, you're able to get a barrier 50% of the attack. So if you have attack buff and you have high attack, since looking at her base stats, she's going to be able to reach pretty high attack since she's Scorpio and it's self imprint crit. So overall, I think she has a pretty unique kit. Again, we have to see how her S2 actually works in practice and see how much damage we're going to be able to actually do with her. But overall, she seems very solid, I would say. And last but not least, we will talk about Stark, which seems a little bit underwhelming, but we'll go over there in just a moment here. All right, so last but not least, we'll be talking about Stark. Now, Stark is obviously the free character if you guys are on the Stowe forums. We'll be getting him for free. And once again, something to highlight is he will have self-imprint critical hit chance as well. I would assume we're not going to need slates for that since he is a free character. I would assume that we're going to be able to acquire it in-game through a mission or side story or something. If we have to slate it, that is Discord only words, okay? If you are wondering about how to build him, he has the same stats as Fire Ravi, so you can look at that in Fribbles if you would like to do so. Now, immediately looking into his passive, when an ally is attacked, he gains 10 Fighting Spirit. So on an AoE, technically he would gain 40 Fighting Spirit, right? Because ally would include himself, I believe. And now, someone might need to fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure how I read that, he should also gain 10 Fighting Spirit, since ally usually also applies to caster as well. Now, when Fighting Spirit is full, activates Warrior Strike on the attacker. It's going to increase the CR of the caster by 50% before resetting the cooldown of Lightning Strike. So something to be mindful of is Lionheart Sturmia similarly also gets 50% combat readiness after her changes from the balance patch, right? For however long ago that was. That means you're going to be able to most likely build Stark on a Destruction build that is like has a little bit of speed, maybe around 150, 160, 170. And you want to make sure he's a bruiser because his damage is proportional to his maximum HP. Now, looking at his S3, which is Lightning Strike, again, he has damage proportional to max health, 50% pen, and damage dealt increases every time the skill is used, stacking up to 3 times, which is similar to Disciplinary Prefect Aria. As it ramps up, so this indicates that he's going to be a more bruiser type unit, right? Where the more you're able to get the S3, the more value you're going to be able to get. If there's a lot of AoE, for example, if there's like a Yufine and a Bellion, right? There's a lot of AoE coming in, then you're going to be able to stack up that S3 damage very, very quickly. Now, when we look at the damage that he does at 26.8k in the video, in the combat demo, he's only doing a mere 6.1k. But another thing I want to just point out is there is Ilanav on the field. So again, I hope Smelgate stops doing this in the future where they actually include Ilanav because he has penetration damage. Why do we have an anti-pen unit? We want to see exactly how much damage he's going to be able to do when Ilanav is not present, right? Anyhow, looking at his S1, he is going to be able to provoke provoke for 1 turn. Again, damage dealt is proportional to their max health, but I don't really understand like why they give Stark a provoke on S1 when you're basically picking him when like your teammates are getting hit. Basically, I don't know. Like, I guess you could try to run him on counter. I don't know. It's just the S1's a little bit weird, but I mean, whatever. I digress, right? The artifact is fucking useless. I'll be honest. Pardon my French. It's fucking useless. Increases damage dealt by 20%. It's pretty fucking worthless. If you're thinking about what other artifact that you could run on Stark, if you want to look for an alternative, I mentioned to my stream you could go for like Prayer of Solitude. You could go because obviously maximum HP, right? Think about that's how ML Aria is built, right? You have the higher the HP, the more ER she gets. The higher HP that Stark has, the more damage she's going to do. So same, right? Additionally, you can go Thorn of the Blue Rose, which allows him to basically soul burn on turn 1. And obviously you're able to ramp the damage ASAP and get value out of that if so. But I almost think of him like... I don't think he'll be that good in bruiser matches because he doesn't have any like built-in injury. His pen damage seems like, not the highest, But again, the combat demo, there's Ilnav, so we have to hold our judgment until obviously we can test it in game and we can see the damage numbers and the ratios and everything. But overall, I think Stark is doesn't look really that good per se, in my opinion. But they definitely want us to play like FRIEREN and Fern together. Stark is just kind of like a side character, I guess. But let me know what you guys think in the comments about FRIEREN, Fern, or Stark. Maybe I got something wrong or something right, or you guys think you guys can use her in a way that I didn't really mention in this video. Very interested to see what you guys think. But overall, I think I'm still excited. I'm a little bit worried that the FRIEREN artifact is like collab limited and it's basically a 5-star book and I don't have unlimited bottles or slates. Like, a little bit concerning, which means the collab packs probably are going to be dropping a bunch of those. I hope not, though. But yeah, best of luck. I hope you guys start refreshing. Again, they come out on September 25th. And best of luck, everybody. I hope you guys have enough bookmarks to get them because at the moment, I sure fucking don't. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care. Bye!